This important day, on May 1st of every year, Nigeria joins over 80 countries around the world to celebrate Workers' Day, also known as Labor Day or May Day, as it is popularly called in Nigeria. This important day is set aside to honor the contributions, sacrifices, and resilience of workers who keep nations and economies running. The day traces its origin, if we may choose to know, to the 1886 labor protest in Chicago, United States of America, advocating for an 8-hour workday. Although the protest led to conflicts, they birthed a global call for better working conditions. By 1890, socialist parties and labor unions in Europe officially declared May 1st of every year as a day of International Worker Solidarity Day. Since then, it has evolved into a globally recognized celebration of the workforce. Precisely in 1980, the People's Democratic Party, the PRP, of Kano State first recognized May 1st as a public holiday in Nigeria. Just a year later, precisely in 1981, it became an official national holiday across the country. Today, Workers' Day in Nigeria is marked with rallies, speeches, and peaceful processions in all states, led by the Nigeria Labour Congress with all other affiliate associations and organizations. As usual, it was pomp and pageantry in Abuja, the nation's capital, where Kaftan TV Labour correspondent Ekaite Ubot was there to capture the speeches, marches, as well as the frills, glitz, and thrills. Let's have a listen.
Workers' Day, also known as Labor Day or May Day, is celebrated on May 1st every year to honor the contributions and achievements of workers worldwide. The day originated from the international labor movement's efforts to establish an 8-hour work day. The first celebration was held on May 1st, 1886 in the United States, and it gained international recognition at the 1889 Paris Congress of the Second International. Workers' Day is often marked by public holiday in many countries, including Nigeria, where it's been observed since 1981. People gather for parades, rallies, and speeches often addressed by labor leaders and politicians. In this year's commemoration, Nigerian workers, as usual, were not left out. Eagle Square, Abuja, was filled to capacity with workers of various unions fully represented. The atmosphere was charged with excitement as workers were dressed in various charming colors. Speaking at the occasion, the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was represented by the Minister of Labor and Employment, Mohammed Dinjadi, while acknowledging the contributions of Nigerian workers in the nation's economy, pledges commitment in collaborating with the two labor centers in the formation of policies that would address numerous challenges of the Nigerian workers.
This administration stands ready to collaborate with the labor unions, the organized and informal private sector, the civil society organizations, to create policies and programs that safeguard the rights and livelihoods of workers across all sectors of the economy.
Also speaking, the Minister of Labor and Employment, Mohammed Dinjadi, who was represented by the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Kiruka Onyejocha, further reiterated commitment in strengthening labor protections, improving job security, and ensuring fairness treatment for all workers in line with the international best practices.
Your voices are heard, your concerns are valid, and your resilience is deeply respected.
Speaking at the occasion, the President, Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajero, and his counterpart, the President of Trade Union Congress, Comrade Festus Osifo, who bore their minds on numerous challenges affecting the nation and the workers, charged their members not to be deterred in fighting for their rights.
A time to demand justice, reclaim our rights, and fight for Nigeria rooted in equity and democracy. It is a day to challenge those in power to lift the crushing weight of economic hardship and give our nation a chance to rise.
Stop the compression of civic space. Number 2, implement minimum wage that reflect current realities. Number 3, withdraw exploitative tax bill. Number 4, reduce Telco tariffs as agreed from 50 to 35%. Number 5, reverse electricity privatization. Number 6, end impunity, killings, and insecurity.
The high point of the event was the march parade by various unions. Nigerian workers join its counterparts all over the world in the commemoration of the 2025 Workers' Day celebration. Messages of hope, resilience, and determination filled the air. From the Eagle Square, Abuja, Ekaite Ibut, Kaftan TV.
Well, thank you, Ekaite, for that package report from the Eagle Square, where government officials as well as labor leaders and their associates celebrated this year's Labor Day with pomp and pageantry. But labor leaders say amidst this year's celebration, the day was marked by disappointments, from the failure to implement a living minimum wage to the increasing cost of living with attendant hardship. Nigerian workers are demanding more than recognition. They are demanding change. It is also happening amidst, resurgence of attacks and general insecurity across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Well, the NLC has also condemned the failure of several state governments to fully implement the new minimum wage and consequential salary adjustment. We have a report, on the national minimum wage from our correspondent. Please take a listen. It's going to be brief.
Nigerian workers have called on government for the proper implementation of the consequential adjustments to reflect the current national minimum wage. Speaking at Eagle Square, Abuja, at the commemoration of the 2025 Workers' Day celebration, some of the workers decried that the present national minimum wage has been eroded by the current economic realities in the country.
There wouldn't have been if both the federal and the state keep faith with the consequential adjustment, because it is the consequential adjustment that will bring grade rating at grade level and steps that will make so you can be at the same level, let's say grade level 14, but different step you earn more according to your step. But if the consequential adjustment is not taken seriously, that is where you see the disparity. But even at that, the 70,000 minimum wage is already eroded, and that is a general remark.
My expectation is that, having known and having seen that the 70,000 naira minimum wage cannot buy a bag of rice for a worker, is therefore necessary that the minimum wage should also be reviewed to be able to take workers home when you take your salary.
They called on governments to address the present discrepancies characterized with the implementation of the 70,000 national minimum wage, as it fails to reflect the consequential adjustment between workers and government during negotiation.
The 70,000 minimum wage has become a mirage, because it is unfortunate to say that what we sign is not what we are seeing. And even at the level of saying that they are paying the minimum wage, we have a very huge tax index in Nigeria, that even as they are paying the minimum wage, what they said they are paid, it's like giving somebody something with the right hand and taking it back with the left hand.
It has reflected, but there is a mutilation in the process, because there were approvals for 40% peculiar allowance, there were approvals for 35 and 25% harmonization allowance, which government, that is the Office of Accountant General, has mutilated. And we have been asking for the Accountant General's office to do the needful so that our worker can get the accurate amount.
It could be recalled that the federal government signed the current 70,000 naira national minimum wage into.
Thank you, Victoria, for that special report. Well, so much is happening within the political space. Labor union leaders are putting up smiling faces in the midst of daunting challenges that against the backdrop of economy that has taken a nosedive. The dollar is having a free fall against the Naira is having a free fall against the dollar, and a general insecurity as well as ravaging poverty across the land. But they still took out time to have a celebration, across the country to help us unpack everything that is labor related this auspicious afternoon. Are two comrades that have already joined me live in the studio. On my far right is no other person than Comrade Ibeji Nwokoma. Ibeji Nwokoma, you're welcome to the Polity.
Thank you very much, sir. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, Ibeji Nwokoma is the National President, National Association of Academic Technologists. We don't take you for granted for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Well,
my pleasure.
Next to me with the cap is no other person than another comrade. He's Comrade Abubakar Yusuf. Abubakar Yusuf, you are welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure having you.
He is the General Secretary of NAAT, a National Association of Academic Technologies. You are the engine room. But let me start with the National President. What was the theme for this year's celebration? In spite of the mounting, hardship the Nigerians are facing as a result of policies by the current administration, labor leaders, appeared smiling, and there was pomp and pageantry. There was joy on their faces. How would you reconcile that?
Thank you very much. The theme generally this year is the shrinkage of space, and then the place of the workforce in Nigerian economy. What you saw yesterday was suffering in the midst of plenty, smiling but suffering. Of course, you and I knows that since the minimum wage was approved, the 70,000 Naira minimum wage was approved, a lot of things had happened. A lot of water has passed through the bridge. Before the introduction of the minimum wage, people who have been asking, why did labor leaders in the first place accept the 70,000 Naira minimum wage?
Right.
The minimum wage was not just accepted, there were promises that were made consequent to the approval of the minimum wage, like that there will be no increase in price of PMS. The Naira was also had a free fall. The liberalization of the Naira with the parallel market. These are the things that happened shortly after the approval of the minimum wage. And of course, you will also agree with me that between the time the minimum wage was approved and now, that Naira has lost value by over 170% in its value.
Yes.
And so, 70,000 Naira today cannot buy a bag of rice. You and I knows that. And so why would the Nigerian worker smile? Where is it going to come from? There's nothing to smile about. And even the so-called minimum wage that was approved, there is no consequential adjustment that is attached to the minimum wage. What they did was an award of 40,000 Naira cross-board. And that's not how to give minimum wage. And so the Nigerian worker generally today has nothing to smile about because the so-called minimum wage cannot take us home. Thank you.
But the federal government, President, is still remaining with you. The federal government has promised they are set to pay 5 months wage award arrears to workers. Are you not happy with that?
Well, thank you very much. We are happy because it is our right. It was a part of the agreement before the minimum wage came, the implementation of the minimum wage. The Labour agreed with federal government that before the implementation of the minimum wage, that the wage award will come to cushion the effect of non-implementation. But look at the value of the Naira. Every day, Naira loses value. And so this wage award that would have been paid before the implementation, and now it has been implemented. It was not paid then. It's only after it has been implementation, due to pressure from labor leaders, that they are now accepting to pay the arrears that were supposed to have been paid before the implementation of the minimum wage, which has lost value. And of course, we're also grateful to Mr. President for the approval but it will not go anywhere in assuaging or helping the workforce. But be it as it may, is our right, is our entitlement, is paid, and we'll accept it.
Let me come to Comrade Abubakar Yusuf. You know, the last time I checked, there are some state governments that they are yet to begin the implementation of the 70,000 naira minimum wage. That is clearly indicative of the insensitiveness of such state governments. How would you react to that?
Yeah, actually, before I go into that your question, first of all, I want to also add to what my president said regarding the May Day. You know, the theme for the May Day is reclaiming the civic space among economic hardship.
Economic hardship.
That is the main theme. And as you rightly said in your prelude, you said workers celebrated this May Day with disappointment. Actually, the first disappointment is workers commemorate this May Day without salary of April. April salary was not paid, particularly in my sector, the university sector. We have not been paid our April salary. So the spirit behind this celebration is solidarity.
Okay.
Yeah, it's solidarity among the labor workers. That was the spirit behind this celebration, because we are highly disappointed with government. Now to your question, particularly these state governments, the National Executive Council of NLC and the CWC, that's the Central Working Committee, had met severally and have discussed this issue, and have given mandates to the states to declare dispute with these states who are not yet to approve this. It's very unfortunate for state government. Their revenue has increased. What they are receiving from federal government has increased over the years. So they have no reason to say they will not implement this 70,000.
And it is even backed by law, because it is illegal. It is even a crime for the state government to refuse blatantly, implementing this law.
Exactly.
What do you think can be done by the labor leaders?
Well,
beyond rallies, beyond demonstrations and carrying of placards, do you think they can seek redress in the law courts?
You know, yeah, actually, we can seek redress in the court of law, but you know how our judiciary is. Even the judiciary has compromised. Honestly, if you go there, you will just waste your time. So we are thinking of maybe taking the issue of advocacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like what we're doing here.
Yes, just like what we're doing now. Yeah, let's point it out to them. Let them know this important they should fulfill their own bargain. We have fulfilled our own. We are doing the job.
Yes.
And we deserve to be compensated.
Beyond, Mr. National President, beyond mere rhetoric of couching the theme, shrinking the space, what do you think, what are the plans to be pragmatic, to approach it practically, than to just mere academic exercise? We are from the academia. You know, it sounds like, okay, we are going to celebrate May Day this year. Let's think about a theme. Okay, shrinking the space. It just, what can be done beyond just rhetoric, beyond just mere saying it, you know, academically?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the our labor center has also been very proactive about this. For instance, in Rivers State, where Mr. President removed an elected governor. Our labor center, Nigerian Labor Congress, said we cannot take a salute from a non-elected governor.
Okay.
Yes.
And therefore they cancelled participation of all comrades, of all labor unions in Rivers State, including Edo State too. And so these are practical ways of ensuring that people will realize their mistakes, because by and large we still believe that the removal of the governor of Rivers State is unconstitutional, whether they like it or they don't like it. It's our stand of NLC and labor leaders that you cannot remove an elected governor. You have the right to declare a state of emergency, but the removing a democratic structure, an elected governor, is for us, it's a no-no.
It's a no-no.
So that is one of the practical ways of telling them to their face. We may not have the power to go and fight or do other things, but we have ways of telling truth to power, that what you have done is not right.
It's not right.
By removing, making sure that we do not recognize him, by making sure that we do not participate in whatever thing he's doing. And so it's not just about rivers, also in other sectors of the economy. What we can do, maybe the labor organization can do, without necessarily going on strike, is civil disobedience.
Okay.
We might decide to say, okay, you want to do this, we're not going to take part, we're not going to be part of it. Civil disobedience is one of the practical means of ensuring that these things, that will take truth to power.
Yeah. I quite agree with you on that. Many people believe, the Secretary General, many people, you know, particularly the leadership of organized labor, that the inflation, the current inflation of the country has made a nonsense of even the 70,000 naira minimum wage, which even some state governors are yet to even implement.
Yes.
Give us a picture of the suffering of, I know, I live in Nigeria, I'm a Nigerian, I know that everybody is suffering, particularly those below the ladder of success. Tell me, in what way, how does it affect them negatively?
Thank you for that question. First of all, I have to start with transportation. Our workers go to work 5 days a week. That's about 20 days a month.
In a month.
And transportation, if you, for example, if you take transportation from Gwagwalada, for example, to the city, you spend nothing less than 1,000 naira. So you go and come back, that's about 2,000 naira. Okay? If you do a rough calculation, 2,000 naira per day in 20 days, that's about 40,000 naira out of 70,000. You see, 50% of the money has gone on transportation.
Even more than 50, yeah.
Thank you. More than 50. Now we are left with 30,000. You feed your family. When your family are sick, you take them to hospital.
Medical bills.
All on this 30,000 naira. Is that enough?
Which is not even coming from.
It's not even coming from some state government. You see, you can see how workers are suffering. We are really suffering. It's just that God is just keeping body and soul, honestly. But it's very, very inadequate. And I remember the president, when he was campaigning, he said he's going to give workers a living wage. Is that 70,000 a living wage? It's not a living wage.
So it's a dying wage.
It's a dying wage. Thank you, sir.
Well, many people have are pointing accusing fingers at the leadership. And you are part of the leadership of your various unions.
Yeah.
You know, of collaborative, you know, tendencies with government officials. Would they be right to say so? Because, okay, look at the rally that took place. All government officials, apart from the Minister of Labour, everybody was represented. It shows how insensitive the current government is, you know, with regards to the plight of Nigerian workers.
Exactly.
Mr. President, can you respond to that?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I even go into that, let me give you this analogy. Assuming a family decides to live on a loaf of bread per day, do you realize that the minimum wage cannot sustain them? Because presently a loaf of bread is 1,500.
Yeah, you're right.
So for 30 days, if they decide to live only
on bread,
it's already 30,000 naira. That's 1,000 naira per day, and then the 500 that is on top times 30. So you discover that the minimum wage cannot buy a loaf of bread.
You're not even adding water that should go with it.
Not even the water that will go with it, my brother. Thank you very much. So that's to tell you that the suffering, the masses are suffering. The workforce, the workers are suffering heavily. And then going back to your question, we are labor leaders. There's no way we can collaborate with government to add to the suffering of Nigerians. It's not possible.
Okay.
We have on our own part done all that we expected to do. Take for instance, during the negotiation of the minimum wage, NLC came with data. They came with all, okay, let's break it down. Food, transportation, feeding, health. This is what this is the current reality on ground. Because what they were asking for is, if you know that these things are the things that that is reality on ground, and therefore let us say, okay, what percentage, or even let us even be increasing the minimum wage based on inflationary rates. And government did not come up with anything to say, okay, what you have said is right. But look at our own superior logic. This is what we can do, this is what we cannot do. And so you should just discover that they only say, we cannot pay. We cannot pay. Without basing it on any data.
Yeah.
And so that was wrong.
This was wrong.
And so there's no way we would have collaborated with them. They were only just trying to tell the whole world that they cannot pay, even when they know that they can pay. Even after this pronunciation of the 70,000, and some of them went back just to please people and say, okay, we'll pay 75, we'll pay 80. Even when they knew from my initial that within the negotiation, they were saying they can't pay more than 52,000. It took labor with their usual way to even jack it up to 70%, 70,000 naira, sorry. And so labor is not collaborating with government to give this type of suffering to Nigerian masses. No way.
Well, I'm not asking this, the next question for you to blow your trumpet, even though there's a new public relations axiom that says, if you do not say I am, nobody will say you are. You took mantle of leadership. You threw your hat in the race to contest for this office because you saw something that that was wrong, or you needed to add up to an existing pragmatic efforts of the previous leadership. And you are now holding sway as National President of Association of Academic Technologists. Some of your members may be watching this program and they'll be like, yeah, that's my president representing us. Do you think we are representing them well? What would you say that you saw that you needed to change or you needed to add for you to become national president?
Thank you very much. Let's even take the current thing that is the major problem now in Nigerian public universities, federal universities. In the last 1 week, or 1 or 2 weeks, there has been this problem, there has been this thing that has been in the news, that government is disbursing 50 billion naira to federal public universities. And there was this false alarm, this negative letter that was written by the permanent secretary announcing that the payment was for a particular set of people in the university. It took the intervention of our union to draw the attention of government. But no, this is wrong. This is not our agreement, because we have an MOU signed by the government, and people should walk their talk. If you sign an agreement with our MOU, with labor unions, you should be able to keep to it, because when that agreement was signed, they told us that 50 billion naira will be released, and that 50 billion naira is for EA and EAA. And so when this letter came, we promptly notified the minister, we shouted, we raised the alarm, and today the EA and EAA, the government has now made it clear that that money is for EA, which is for the non-teaching staff, and the EA for academic staff, but it does not stop there. Today we are still saying, we are insisting that you must use a template. When you are disbursing that money, there must be a template for which people will know. Because it's not a bonanza. The sharing of that money is not a bonanza. It is earned. And when you earn it, that's when you are paid. And so we are saying we have a 2009 agreement with federal government, and that you must use that agreement to generate a template, because that's one they generated in 2013, the first time that EA was paid, and allowance then, before it now evolved, because some group now brought it EAA after that first payment. So we are still insisting that use templates when you want to pay. Those are the things we have brought to bear to the union. And of course, there are so many. Before we came on board, we had 2009 agreement. There was no circular backing it. We were the first union among all the 4 university-based unions to have National Income Salaries and Wages Commission to give us circulars that backed some of the allowances in the 2009 agreement. So these are the things we have brought to bear.
Secretary General, is there something you want to add to that?
Yeah.
Because we're winding down.
Yeah, what I want to add is, just like the President has said, the burning issue is the 2009 agreement, which is an agreement that was signed with government that year that that agreement should be renegotiated after every 3 years. And in fact, like as we are talking now, a committee has been set up by the federal government for renegotiation of this agreement.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And we hope we will achieve that.
Well, as labor leaders, you are also politicians. In fact, you are playing partisan politics. We cannot end this conversation without asking you about the journey towards 2027. There is general hardship. People are complaining, people are groaning, including your members. Yet, in the midst of all this despondency and widespread insecurity ravaging the land, there are defections to the ruling All Progressives Congress. Moving towards the 2027, how does that make you feel, and how do you see the trajectory?
Well, thank you very much. This question is germane. Well, in the first place, you already know the adage. If you move to APC, your sins are forgiven. All your sins are forgiven. Those that are under the watch of EFCC, it is government, the present government is using coercive measures to make sure that they move to, but we must point out the danger of a one-party state. But again, the defections will not really matter when it comes to, some people might think that it will also play a role. Yes, we believe it may play a role, but remember that one candidate in 2023 got 6 million votes. That candidate did not have one single governor.
Yes.
He didn't have anybody. So it might be, 2027 might be APC and the people.
Okay. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I truly believe that.
Okay.
Because the hardship is enough. It's a symbol, it's a signal for the government to know that it is the government against the people. And it's one vote, one man. One man, one vote.
Well, thank you so very much, Comrade Ibeji Nwokoma, National President of National Association of Academic Technologists. Thank you for coming to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
pleasure
Comrade
to be here.
Yusuf. We most profoundly appreciate your visit to Kaftan TV, particularly on the polity. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, our esteemed viewers, we'll be coming back shortly after this break. Please don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Imagine a beautiful world. That's our slogan at Kaftan TV. Hello there, I am Ruben Okala.
Hello, I'm glad to have you join us again on the news on the hour, reaching you live from our studio in the nation's capital.
And that has been the news. Many thanks for watching. My name is Fatima Abbas Hassan. I'm there cutting Baba today.
I am Purian.
The politics of Lagos State is still very much in the hands of the leaders.
My name is Dayo Omogun. I've not done a change of name.
To Adebayo Film and Theatre Arts Network.
We always dish out beautiful materials. Imagine a beautiful world. That's our slogan at Kaftan TV. Hello there, I am Ruben Okala.
Hello, I'm glad to have you join us again on the news on the hour, reaching you live from our studio in the nation's capital.
And that has been the news. Many thanks for watching. My name is Fatima Abbas Hassan. I'm there cutting Baba today.
I am Purian.
The politics of Lagos State is still very much in the hands of the leaders.
My name is Dayo Omogun. I've not done a change of name.
To Adebayo Film and Theatre Arts Network.
We always dish out beautiful materials. Imagine a beautiful world. That's our slogan at Kaftan TV. Hello there, I am Ruben Okala.
Hello, I'm glad to have you join us again on the News on the Hour, reaching you live from our studio.
Some say Nigeria's 26-year political sojourn, now in its fourth republic, is a story of a navigator exploring a particularly difficult terrain. Can the nation scale the hurdles ahead, or will the headwinds be too much? Join me, Segun Ojelade, as I ask the difficult questions, moderate uncensored debates, razor-sharp analysis, and unveil the truth shaping our democracy on the program Politics 004, showing Kaftan TV. Politics 004, Policy and Politics. Join us.
When we say on Kaftan TV, imagine a beautiful world, we're not just bragging, we know our onions in the world of broadcasting. One of our outlets to express ourselves to the world is our flagship program, Matters Arising. Join veteran broadcaster Ruben Ukala and our crack team live.
And they give us a high price, and we just say, Nigeria, we ready?
As I said earlier, the lyrics is up, talking about the old new national.
On Kaftan TV, StarTimes channel 480 and 124, as well as NIGCOMSAT frequency 12518, symbol rate 29500. Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. live. You can join the conversation by calling this phone number 0802-993-8365. It's dramatic and insightful. Don't miss it. Please join us. You're welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're tuned to The Polity, reaching you live from the Abuja studio of King Adebayo Film and Theatre Arts Network, popularly known as Kaftan Television, where we all imagine a beautiful world. My name remains Macauley Hunohashi, your regular uncle, and we're still talking labor. May 1st every year is set aside by over 80 countries to celebrate workers, and it is popularly called Workers' Day or May Day, as the case may be. In Nigeria, workers celebrated the May Day across all the 35 states, including the Federal Capital Territory. And at the Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, it was pomp and pageantry at the Eagle Square. Even though Labour leaders spoke to journalists, they said they were smiling in the midst of, widespread hardship and despondency across the land. But there is a new twist. The Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transporters of Nigeria, AUATON, has petitioned the National Assembly over what it described as systemic corporate violence, repeated victimization, and the misclassification of app-based transport workers by leading ride-hailing companies such as Uber, Bolt, and InDrive. The petition, dated May 1st, 2025, and submitted to the chairman of the House Committee on Public Petitions, calls on the legislature to intervene in addressing the precarious working conditions of thousands of Nigerian drivers who operate on these platforms. Well, joining me live in the studio already are two comrades. To my immediate right is the national president of the Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transporters of Nigeria, AUATON, Comrade Damola Adeniran. Thanks for joining me this auspicious afternoon on the Polity. I can see your old smiles since you walked into this studio. In the midst of despondency, the union leaders are complaining. You are full of smiles. Well, before I come to that smile, you're going to explain it to us. Let me quickly introduce another comrade. He is Dr. Raymond Dibang. Raymond Dibang, welcome to the Polity.
Thank you very much.
Raymond Dibang is the Director, Business Development of Simply Right.
Yes.
The name speaks for itself. Are you collaborating, National President?
Yes, we are actually collaborating. The union has adopted an alternative to the current model, which is Simply Right, and which, of course, would speak in regards to that in the future aspect of this conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, the petition, what gave rise to this petition? And it coincided with the May Day celebration globally, May 1st, 2025.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ranko. Before I continue your conversation, I would like to give a brief remark to the background of the context, which is that last year, the former Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Ngige, approved a trade union that is registered and established under the Ministry of Labour and Employment, which registered the Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transporters of Nigeria, that is saddled with the responsibility, of course, to ensure that the living and the working conditions of app-based transporters in Nigeria is improved. One of the major accomplishments that we have been able to make over the period of time is that we have been able to adopt and sign the national collective agreements that was adopted, of course, at the Lagos Declaration on improving and the living and the working conditions of app-based transporters of Nigeria. So in providing a background about that context is that we brought together 6 states, the regulators, the academias, and all the stakeholders, including 13 indigenous platforms at Proti Hotel in Lagos, to adopt a way in which we would govern the ELN practice in Nigeria to ensure the social protection in accordance with the national legal framework, collective bargaining in terms of international legal framework, employment classification of platform workers, 2006 ILO recommendation number 198, and other social protection systems in accordance with Employee Compensation Act 2010 and the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund Act, which says that private sectors should have access to social protection under the law.
Yeah.
Now, That has not been implemented, and that's the problem we are facing in terms of corporate violence in Nigeria, where we have workers in Nigeria that are platform drivers. And that's why we petitioned the National Assembly yesterday, as you can see it on the portal or the platform of your media, that we have petitioned the National Assembly, the chairman of the Public Petitions Committee, for July of 2025 to bring together platforms together in a safe setting so we can formulate a national policy that will extend social protection to platform drivers as it has been excluded under the law, under the current provisions which I provided to you, and so that we can achieve collective bargaining under the law, and which is why we have adopted an alternative to what we have, which is simply right, under the shared model responsibility. What we have in the international context is the misclassification of workers in our sector. And we need to continue to address that so we can extend social protection to workers, collective bargaining, and other entitlements that are applicable under law. And that is why we have petitioned the National Assembly to act in accordance with the national and international legal frameworks on the law.
Okay. Now, in addition to the ILO conventions, you are also using the Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution, as well as, Section 91 of the Labor Act, to have legal backing. Now, how far have you gone, apart beyond, writing this petition and submitting it? How far have you gone in lobbying? Is there something secret that you don't want to reveal?
We would like to reveal it because it's nothing hidden. We will picket platforms from next Monday. We would cover it.
Wow, we're going to cover it.
Of course, Monday next week, all platforms will be picketed. Yesterday, we logged off all applications in Nigeria in solidarity of the international environment. The major problems, as I put it to you, sir, is that there is a lack of regulatory environments for labor regulation in Nigeria that extends social protection to informal workers, including platform drivers. And the second is, of course, the corporate violence and crime. We need to have a regulatory framework specifically for platform drivers in Nigeria. And those are the two areas. If we can address it at the level of the National Assembly with the findings from the National Collective Agreement, we found that there has to be a shared responsibility model. And that shared responsibility model is the reason why we partnered with Simply Ride to make sure that since the government is irresponsible on addressing the problems of informal workers, especially the platform drivers, we partnered with an international organization that is indigenous in the perspective of restorative justice, right? To address reparation. And reparation means social protection for platform drivers. It means compensation to the families of victims that will be harmed on the job and to prevent repeat victimization, right? That's the area that we are willing to address. And that's the general form of victimization. And in the specific form of victimization is to prevent it, which we are saying that all other empowerment programs, including CNG, we have a CNG program now at the level of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative at the governmental level, that workers in our sector, they are not getting that program for free. They have to pay 50% of it. right? Because of the status of their employment classification, the misclassification of workers is based on a disguised employment relationship and overly ambiguous.
Okay.
So in the future, we are hoping that in July, that based on the petition that we have submitted, that the National Assembly can direct platforms to come to a conference in July that will bring platforms together with workers' representatives and platforms in addition to Simply Right, Bolt and Uber and others, so that way we can formulate a national policy that will address social protection and other entitlements that are available under the traditional based employment relationship. We want to conclude that this fault-based relationship is fault-based, like I said. We need an alternative, and that's why we partnered with Simply Right.
Okay, let me come to Simply Right. Dr. Dibang,
yes,
you
sir.
are the Director of Business Development of Simply Right.
Yes, sir.
You have entered a collaborative relationship. You have signed a collaborative relationship with their organization. Tell me the nexus that connects you, and what specific role are you supposed to play? I'm talking about Simply Right.
Thank you very much. So we at Simply Right, we're an indigenous company run by Nigerians, for Nigerians. At the last year May declaration in Lagos, where they invited all app-based companies, we were represented, and we were keen to listen to their pain points, to all their worries and issues. And having listened to them, we came up with a policy on our own end as a company to implement some of the issues that they have been querying about. And one of those many issues is the issue of security with regards to their members being maimed and killed, using the application. So on our own application, we've created a security feature, so to speak, whereby before you download and use our app as a rider, you must first of all show your identity. Yeah. So in that sense, a driver understands who he or she is picking on the ride. So in that way, it's a form of creating a security measure for the drivers and for the riders. And in addition to that, our own model as a company is a subscription-based model as opposed to a commission-based model from other applications. So a rider, or rather a driver, registers and downloads our app, basically pays a daily subscription fee and uses the app. And then that's all. We do not collect your earnings. Your earnings are yours.
Okay.
You basically just pay a daily subscription fee of 1,500, and you use our application, and then that's about it. And so we also put into measures such as social welfare, which one of them is health insurance. So on our application, we are putting in a health insurance scheme whereby drivers using our application would have health insurance for them. So those are one of the many plans we have as a company, Simply Right, for the e-hailing community.
Do you have talking about your background briefly, have you succeeded elsewhere?
Yes, we have. You mean in terms of this?
Because of this specific kind of application?
Yeah, we have, but it's one that has grown into what Simply Right is. So it's run by a mother company known as ePay Studios, and so from that we have modified certain issues which has bettered Simply Right.
Well, in the past, I can understand your concern, National President Adeniran. You recounted the case of Kevin Oga Ede, who was found murdered after a ride in October 2023. Well, despite having a car tracker, his killers were never brought to justice, and his family reportedly received no support or response from Bolt. No response from Bolt. And in another case, Pastor Luca, a driver, was shot in the neck during an attempted carjacking in May 2024. He survived but spent 2 months in the hospital. 2 of his attackers were later released without any prosecution, according to the union.
Thank you very much, the anchor, for addressing that specific problem, which is what I have been trying to address in my form of research for the sector in terms of corporate violence and crime. In my research, I have addressed general forms of repeat victimization and specific forms of corporate crime and violence, right? In the general form of corporate crime and victimization, I have addressed the misclassification of workers that has to deal with redefining and clarifying the scope of employment relationship, the misclassification of workers, the unjust deactivation and dismissal, the failure of platforms to profile passengers, and other forms of victimization. In the specific forms of the victimization is the carjacking and the car theft and the manslaughter, which it results to in the specific form of. But in the legitimate form of platforms, in the course of putting forth their activities, they have harmed workers as a result of the status of the employment relationship, which is self-employed, in which the high and low has advised us that those workers that are specifically and that are genuinely disguised of in their employment relationship, that we should address them. And that's what we're doing now, because in the context of Nigeria, we know that platform drivers are genuinely disguisedly misclassified under a self-employed relationship. We look at what the Section 91 of the Labor Act says, and we look at what the Section 54 of the Labor Act says in terms of collective bargaining and in terms of what a worker is. And we know what the NSITF law says, that in essence we should extend entitlements to informal workers that are disguisedly employed under that self-employed relationship, whether it be the fact that whether in terms of the algorithmic management, in terms of the waiting time, the timing in terms of that worker relationship or the health insurance or whatever applications we have to put it under law, the subordination, the control, whatever it is, whatever the status of platform workers is, we should extend social protection to them. And that's why we partnered with Simply Right, so that those health insurance, Bolt, for example, has flans insurance under law. Drivers have to drive more than 20 hours a week. They still don't have entitlements to health insurance. The victims that we have spoken to under the petition that you read, that it was submitted to the National Assembly, they don't have compensation after they have been harmed under law. And that is where the results of corporate violence and crime comes from. Until we are able to form a robust regulatory framework, not just for platform drivers, but with private employees under law, to redefine the scope of employment relationship in Nigeria. For labor, the labor regulation is faulty. Let's say that. Section 91, Section 54 of the Labor Act needs to be repealed. That's the problem.
Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution.
Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution. Exactly. 54, 91 of the Labor Act needs to be repealed. Unless we start talking about that, then we can't talk about informal workers. We can't even talk about platform drivers in Nigeria because they don't have access to social protection. And that's why we have Simply Right.
Okay, before I go to Simply Right, let me ask you this question. It's just a follow-up to what you just said. You have alluded to it. Your main objective is to redefine the employment status of app-based drivers as well as extend social protection to them. How robust, you talked about robustness, how robust is your database? Because we're talking about Uber and Bolt and driving operators in Port Harcourt, Lagos, Kaduna, Abuja, Yola, Kano. Do you have a robust database? Do you know them? Did you hear me? No,
he's talking to you.
It's you.
Okay, so today, sorry about that, I didn't hear you, my uncle. Today we have over 9,000 members that are registered with ALSAN, nationwide, and we intend to use our numbers. We don't care about Bolt or Uber. They can keep their rap. We are hoping that the National Assembly will act in favor of our petition to bring them to the National Conference in July. We have close to 10,000 members, and we are going to put our members on Simply Right to make sure that they extend the social protection that is under law, under Section NSITF law, Employees Compensation Act 2010, on the social protection floor for health insurance for workers. In terms of defining the scope of employment relationship, we apply to them under law and other relevant national context, and we will use our numbers and whatever we have to make sure that we adopt a restorative approach to bring stakeholders to the table in July of 2025 to formulate a national policy that will address the major problems that we are facing in Nigeria. And we can use the lessons from that setting to adapt into other national contexts. To improve the conditions of workers within the sector, within the sub-Saharan African jurisdiction.
Dr. Dibang, you've mentioned the functionality of your app. Brilliant idea. Let me know, I want to know the level of response so far. For how long have you been operating now in the market, and what's the level of response from, those you are attracting?
So we've been registered in the country for over a year plus. However, we recently, yesterday made it a week since we launched our application into the market. And the response so far has been really great. We started in 3 cities, Abuja, Lagos, and Port Harcourt, for obvious reasons. And so from there, we would move to our second phase, which is to imbibe other cities into the platform. And so hopefully in the next 90 days or 120, 3 to 4 months, we would imbibe 3-4 additional states into our platform. So the response so far has been fantastic, and we are sure that we'll get a very healthy chunk of the market. Slowly but surely we'll get there. And just to further add to what the comment said earlier, with regards to formalization of the informal sector, so which is part of what Simply Ride has also come on board to do. When we were in Lagos last year in signing the declaration, part of their pain point was the informalization of the informal sector. So we are trying to formalize that sector by our own little means. And a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step. So we have gone ahead to imbibe those social services into our platform, which is the health insurance and the security features and so many other packages that we have, but we would like to bring them one step after the other. So having to create this awareness of formalizing the sector, hopefully the government listens, and then it's a win-win for everybody.
Well, come to think of it, this sector you're talking about is mostly populated by educated people. Most of the drivers are educated, they are graduates.
Sure, yes.
But in government, there's no any regulatory framework that will protect them. Not even talking about any kind of palliative that or enabling environment that will make their business seamless.
Yes.
So
that's why we are in the sector. For government to say that a reputable indigenous company has come on board to take into cognizance the certain pain points of this wonderful drivers in the sector. Hence, we are doing what we're doing, and we would hope that government listens and put in necessary steps gradually. We know how the bureaucracy in government works, but put in the necessary steps gradually and formalize the sector or give them the needed respect that they deserve.
Mr. President, I don't know, we're going to detail a news crew to cover the picketing, the day of the picketing.
Of course, absolutely, sir.
How wide spread is it going to be?
We are going to cover nationwide everywhere that Bolt hasn't. Sir, let me tell you, I meant the general form of victimization, which has to deal with the misclassification of workers, and that has to deal with all, because we have an agreement that is contractually based with drivers, which puts them on the self-employment relationship basis and addresses them as partners who are contractors, independent contractors. So what we are going to do is any office that they have in Nigeria, we're going to picket. We will be there with our placards telling them to come to July. If you don't come to July, we will make sure that the National Assembly messes you up in terms of your CAC, because our workers have to be addressed based on the jurisdiction of a contractual agreement that they are not liable of. It's not a Nigerian company.
It's not.
It's not. So they're not liable to us. We have to wait when our workers are unjustly deactivated. For the proper channel of communication, we have to wait for hours from Estonia for both to reach back to us when I can reach back to him in my local government, right?
Dr. Dibang, is it your responsibility simply to manage the algorithm of the arrangement, algorithmic management? Whose responsibility is that?
Of algorithmic management of who?
Of the data.
Of the data. Oh, so we have our own data in terms of members of the general public who are downloading our application, and they have their own data. So we tend to cross-relate, and see where we can manage information. So we also need those data for security reasons as well. So having to know which driver is in distress, that helps us with our security features, which we are also putting into our application. So in that sense, there's a cross-pollination of information and data between both parties.
Want to add to that?
Yes, in terms of information, cross-coordination of information, that would have to deal with the proper channel of communication in terms of the law on just deactivation and dismissal. On the law, they can't deactivate. When we can collectively bargain on issues, that means that our local governments are connected with them. They can't just terminate us, right? That is what is going on Bolt or Uber. We have workers that send me emails that they have been deactivated. I send an email to Bolt. Bolt does not reach out to me since last year, April. I can reach out to him and say, why have you deactivated my member? Unblock him or else I will deal with you. He will listen. That's the problem. And until we come to a setting in July where the National Assembly is able to bring Bolt and Uber to the table. We had a project last year that adopted, I want to pay reference to that. We had a project last year that adopted the National Collective Agreements. That National Collective Agreement was based on previous consultative stages that Bolt attended 2 times. But because of the fact that, of course, their jurisdiction is in Estonia, they can't continue anymore, and Uber says that we are contractors, they wouldn't continue anymore, and that prevents us from the lack of access to collective bargaining under law, Section 54 and Section 91 of the Labour Act. And I put the petition to the National Assembly, of course, because I don't want to go to court as an alternative to litigation. If they don't come to court, then we will address them at the National Industrial Court.
So in terms of justice for those who lost their lives in the course of this job, you have submitted a petition. I want to know specifically if the petition, defined or talked about the need for justice for those who lost their lives, those who were maimed and they became incapacitated, and the need for succor for families of victims. Have you captured that?
Yeah, it is the more need for us to adopt a shared responsibility model. When we came up with Simply Right, I didn't want to go for an app.
Okay.
Because it was political.
Yeah.
If you know what's going on with the NLC and the Reconciliation Committee, I don't know whether you're covering it. I don't care about them, right? But the problem that we have in the sector is that we need to have a shared responsibility model where platforms, lawmakers are not even aware of the problems that are going on within our sector. We have a benchmark at the judiciary level on misclassification of workers. The rulings on that is that it is based on conjective speculation. The people who put that case in court, bad lawyers, they don't know what they're doing, and they didn't present facts according to law in terms of the primacy of facts, right? So we are going to address the courts on a different basis, but at now, we already have a benchmark. The National Collective Agreement, social protection, algorithmic management, and all the entitlements under law. If you cannot address that, bring them under an alternative to that litigation to the conference in July. Let us have a restorative conference. The alternative that we adopted initially was based on a restorative approach, which initially collected survey from drivers, 250 drivers from across the country on their needs and concerns. They mentioned passenger profiling, they mentioned corporate violence and all the issues in the country. And that's how we formed the consultative stages up until the Lagos Restorative Conference. We adopted the National Collective Agreement. Bolt and Uber are not applicable to the National Collective Agreement because of the nature of the self-employment relationship. So we adopted a shared responsibility model where our workers, our members, even outside of the freedom of association, can have entitlements to certain aspects of the law.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why we adopted Simply Right.
Simply Right. Okay, going back to Simply Right, Dr. Dibang, the world is dynamic and it is technology driven.
Exactly.
We're talking about AI, and such stuff. How user-friendly is your app? Because
it's a very fantastic app, I would say, and it's very user-friendly. For riders, you basically would just have to put in your details, like I said, your name, your phone number, and your picture.
It's not cumbersome at all?
No, not at all. And for drivers, you would have to download the app and register your car details, your particulars, your driver license, and car papers. And it's very seamless. Okay. It's a very seamless and a very friendly application with wonderful features and very endearing colors to make the users easy.
We are in Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja.
Yes.
Tell me the percentage of response so far.
There's a percentage response so far.
An idea of rough idea.
As at yesterday, considering yesterday was a week since we launched,
exactly.
We've had approximately 6,000 downloads from the 3 present cities, and hopefully by next week we would have an increase in that number, or a double increase in that number, basically. Okay. So far so good. The reception has been good, and hopefully better.
Hopefully better.
Yes, sir.
How comfortable are you with the arrangement so far, moving forward? Because we are winding down the conversation.
Thank you very much, the anchor. We are just hoping that we can make a national consciousness on these problems that we are facing, to make sure that platforms address the problems and come to the national conference in July. And whether they like it or not, we will address them through litigation or legislation. Whatever the case may be, we don't have a choice as a trade union. And I want to thank Dr. Chris Ngige for making a landmark decision to register this trade union to improve the conditions of workers. That has been what I've been able to work on as the president of the union.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We are winding down on advisory note. What would you be advising operators, government, and legislators? What kind of advice would you give them?
My advice would be to listen to the e-hailing application and riders. listen to their pains and listen to their submissions and try to implement them as soon as possible. Because the formalization of that sector is also an increase in revenue or in GDP for the country. A lot of the informal sectors in this country, because they have not been given their dues, government tend to lose a lot of revenue. So doing that as well enables the government to reach out to the people in a very wonderful way. So I would advise that government and legislators listen to their views.
Well, National President, I'm a strong proponent of alternative dispute resolution. But you keep talking about litigation, where and the month in focus is July. A failure to convene a public hearing where all players will converge, will compel you to move to the next level, and that is litigation.
Of course.
And to seek redress.
Exactly.
It is your entitlement.
Exactly.
So we are emphatic about that.
Exactly. If they don't come to the conference in July, I will be the first president in court in July to take them to court for misclassification of workers, algorithmic management, and social protection and compensation to platform drivers that are harmed on the job as a result of corporate violence and crime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you very much,
Dr. Dibang, for coming to the polity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
We'll do this again.
Thank you.
Before July, I promise you, we're going to invite you here for another outing.
Thank
and definitely, I promise you, our news department are going to deploy a crew to cover the picketing because it's news.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, viewers, that's the size of our package this auspicious afternoon on the polity. I remain yours truly, Macauley Hunohashi. See you tomorrow with another bumper outing. Bye-bye. God bless Nigeria.